I never imagined a millionaire's offer would reveal a heartbreaking secret about love. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other Tuesday, with the smell of burnt toast wafting through my small apartment. The sunlight crept through the dusty blinds, casting shadows on the walls, but all I felt was a heaviness, a weight that pressed down on my chest. My phone buzzed on the table. One glance at the screen sent chills racing down my spine. It was a message from Julian, the enigmatic millionaire who had taken a fleeting interest in my art. "Meet me at the corner cafe at 3 p.m. I have an offer for you," it read. My heart raced. An offer? The last time I spoke to Julian, he had been so distant, hiding behind a wall of confidence that left me feeling invisible. I hadn't heard from him in weeks, and part of me was relieved, but another part yearned for his attention. My fingers trembled as I bit my lip, uncertainty drowning my thoughts. The cafe felt different that day. The chatter of strangers, the clinking of cups all sounded like muffled whispers. I could barely concentrate on my coffee. I glanced at the door every few minutes, heart pounding louder with each passing second. Finally, he walked in. Julian wore a tailored suit that clung to his frame, his presence commanding attention. The air around him buzzed with a silent intensity. "Hey," he said, his voice smooth like velvet, and I melted a little. But beneath his charm lurked something darker. His eyes, usually so bright, held shadows today. It unnerved me. He sat across from me, the tension palpable. "I need to talk to you about something important." My stomach knotted as he began to speak. With every word, he unveiled layers of a plan that seemed extravagant and absurd. He wanted to sponsor my art, but there was a catch. An exhibition, yes, but also a personal investment. "You see," he leaned in closer, "I want you to paint the story of my family. The secrets, the heartbreaks." Confusion washed over me. What did he mean by secrets? Why me? I could feel my heart race, each beat resonating with doubt. The air grew thick, heavy with unspoken words. My mind swirled with thoughts of betrayal and curiosity. Why had he chosen me? What lie lingered behind that perfect smile? My thoughts raced to the summer night I met him, the laughter, the spark. But then, my dreams of a budding romance faded under the weight of his offer. "Julian, what secrets?" I finally asked, my voice barely a whisper. My hands trembled, and I could see a flicker of something profound in his eyes, a vulnerability that started to break through his composed facade. He hesitated, a tension building between us. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you, but what I'm about to reveal could change everything." The world outside faded away, and I was left hanging on his words. The atmosphere shifted, charged with possibility and dread. What truth could shatter the remnants of this warmth? My heart was throbbing in my chest. I wanted to reach out to him, to pull him back into the light, but I feared what shadow lay behind him. Then, out of nowhere, the cafe door swung open violently. An icy wind rushed in, bringing with it a stranger's voice, a voice I didn't recognize but that sent ice coursing through my veins. "Julian. We need to talk. Now." Panic raced through my veins as I looked from the stranger to Julian. His face paled, a flash of fear crossing his features before he masked it with a smile. "Just a second," he said, but I could see it, the way his hands gripped the table. Something was wrong. The room grew quiet, the noise of the cafe crashing into silence. All I could hear was the pounding of my heart, the echoes of unanswered questions hanging heavy in the air. I wanted to run, to escape the storm that was about to break. I had never imagined this would lead to such chaos, a millionaire's offer revealing a heartbreaking secret about love. What lay behind those shadows? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air in the cafe felt electric, crackling with tension as Julian's eyes darted toward the stranger, a woman clad in a trench coat, her dark hair whipping around her face like tendrils of a tempest. I couldn't comprehend the panic in his expression nor the urgency in her voice. The room blurred around me, coffee cups trembled, and chatter faded into a quiet hum. Julian, we don't have time for this, she pressed, stepping forward, her gaze fixed on him, willing him to act. You have to come with me. Now. I felt as if the world tilted around me. Who is she? I whispered, my heart thudding erratically. Doubt flooded my mind. I needed answers, but all I got was silence from Julian. His eyes held a mix of despair and something else, something darker. I could sense a divide between us growing wider by the second. Just please, Julian's voice cracked, barely above a whisper, before he turned away from me, his attention consumed by this enigmatic figure. Give me a moment. The fear that gripped me then was unlike any I had experienced before. It was as if I stood at the precipice of an abyss, teetering on the edge, unsure of what lay below. I felt invisible, as if I was watching a tragedy unfold from a distance, unable to intervene. Swallowing hard, I stood up, my legs shaky, and cleared my throat. Julian, what is going on? I demanded, desperation reaching the pitch of my voice that he slowly turned to meet my gaze, the shadows in his eyes deepening. It's complicated, he replied, his tone surprisingly gentle. But you have to trust me, trust you? I scoffed, fighting against a swell of hurt. You've done nothing but dodge me since the moment we met. You're hiding something. His expression faltered for a brief moment, then hardened as he faced the woman again. Fine. I'll go, he said, his voice tinged with defeat. But no. I interrupted, a mixture of fear and anger surging through me. You can't just leave like this. Not after everything you've said. The tension in the cafe had shifted, growing thicker as patrons stole glances, their coffees forgotten. Julian hesitated, his eyes flickering back to me. It's safer this way, for both of us, he said, desperation lacing his words. You don't understand what's at stake. What's at stake? I shouted, the words tumbling from my lips, raw and full of anguish. Is it the secret you're so terrified to share? Because whatever it is, I'm willing to listen. But his gaze slid away, drawn back to the woman, a silent battle of wills playing out in the space between them. I could feel my breath quickening, panic rising like a tide threatening to drown me. My heart clenched as realization sank in. If he walked out of that cafe, if he chose her over me, what would that mean for my life, my art, our connection that was so abruptly building? Just then, an unexpected kindness emerged. An elderly man seated nearby, who had been quietly sipping his tea, broke the tension. Young lady, he said, his voice warm yet resolute. Sometimes, you must let the storm pass before you can see the light again. Don't lose hope. I blinked, confusion mingling with gratitude. His words seemed like a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. I took a breath, letting the moment wash over me before turning back to Julian, desperate to find a way to reach him. Julian, please. Just tell me what is going on. I want to understand. His face crumpled, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of the man who had ignited my heart, who had drawn me into a web of dreams. But before he could respond, the woman stepped in closer, fingers clawing at his arm, pulling him toward the door. We don't have time, she insisted, with a sudden motion. He shrugged her off and turned to face me fully, an anguish creeping into his expression. You have to promise me you'll be careful. I can't protect you if you stay entangled in this. I never wanted you involved. My heart sank as his words hit me hard, echoing the dread I had been grappling with. Involved in what? I asked, panic cracking my voice. The world felt as though it was collapsing around me, and I desperately needed answers. I can't explain now, just trust me. You need to. But the door swung open again, and in walked a group of stern-looking individuals, faces like stone. The moment was shattered. They moved with purpose, scanning the cafe, and I felt the air thicken with impending danger. Julian's eyes met mine, raw panic etched into his features. "Run! Get out of here!" he shouted, and in that instant, my heart dropped. Would I abandon this fleeting chance at truth for fear or face whatever lurked in the shadows alongside him? With the weight of uncertainty pressing down, I stood frozen, caught between the two worlds, the one I thought I knew and the one lurking behind Julian's gaze, and then I spoke, a decision shimmering on my lips, a truth that could change everything. "I won't leave you," I declared, defiance igniting in my chest. "Whatever it is, I'm with you." But his face twisted into something dark and sorrowful. "You don't know what you're asking for," he murmured, as the storm gathered both around us and within. In that moment, I sensed the heart of the storm threatening to engulf us, but deep down, I questioned whether it was my heart or his that might be the first to shatter. With the strangers growing closer, with Julian's world spiraling, I realized our tale was only just beginning, fate standing at the cusp, ready to unveil its most tragic secrets. The bright lights of the cafe flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows on the walls as the group of stern individuals advanced toward us. My heart raced, and time seemed to stretch as a chilling wave of dread washed over me. Julian's eyes darted between me and the approaching strangers, a tempest of emotion raging within his chest. "Please," he said, his voice strained, a plea intermingled with desperation. "You don't know who they are. You need to hide." "I'm not hiding." I shot back, grounding myself in this moment, adamant about not letting him spiral further into darkness. "I'd rather face whatever this is together." The woman in the trench coat took a step forward, and I caught a glimpse of her hardened expression, a portrait of both urgency and determination. "Julian," she urged, and I could hear the tremor in her voice. Even she was touched by the gravity of this moment. "We don't have time to argue. There's too much at stake." I felt the rattle of the words inside me, shaking loose the fear I had just begun to grasp. "Too much at stake," I echoed, striving to decipher her cryptic revelation. "What do you mean? What's happening?" Julian grasped my shoulders, his grip tight as if trying to tether me to him against the storm rising around us. "You don't understand. They're after me. Because of what I've done," he said, voice dropping to a near whisper, eyes brimming with a pain that felt almost unbearable. "What you've done?" I pressed, my heart thundering in my chest. "You're putting me in danger, Julian." "No," he snapped, his frustration boiling over, but mixed with sorrow. "You've never been in danger until now. I was prepared to face this alone. Why can't you let me help?" Desperation poured from me, coursing through every inch of my being. "You don't have to carry this alone. I won't let you." His eyes softened momentarily, but the urgency of the situation hung heavy between us, thickening the air. The strangers were now just a few steps away, their faces resolute, predatory. Before I could respond, the elderly man who had offered me comfort moments before stood up, his frail frame shaking but his voice steady. "You don't have to do this, young man. There is always a choice, a way to protect those we love without resorting to darkness. Stay out of this." One of the approaching figures barked, their voice like gravel, unsettling the moment with threats unspoken. But the old man pressed on. "Don't you see? Love isn't about sacrifice, it's about empowerment. Whatever you're battling, it's not worth losing someone special who cares for you deeply. There is strength in vulnerability." The word struck a nerve within me, that realization that Julian and I were swiftly becoming caught in a narrative that neither of us fully understood. If love were truly powerful enough to redefine strength, perhaps it could guard us against whatever was coming. Julian's brow furrowed, frustration warring with a hint of hope. "But I can't promise that you'll be safe," he said, his voice cracking. "I won't let you become a casualty of my past." And then, a bold realization washed over me. "Then let us rewrite the narrative," I said, my heart racing. "You don't have to face this alone. Trust me to stand by you while you figure this out. Together." His gaze locked onto mine, and for a moment, the world outside the cafe seemed to fade away, the approaching figures no longer closing in, but standing still as if waiting for his decision. In that shared silence, I felt the enormity of our connection swell, breathing life into the flickering embers of defiance within him, but just as we connected, the stranger surged forward, shattering the moment. "You think you can protect her, Julian?" One growled, reaching toward me. "What you're involved in is bigger than both of you." It was then that I saw something shift behind Julian's eyes, a profound agony, an understanding of the lengths he might have to go. "Run!" he shouted, pushing me back even as my heart screamed to stay. "Get out of here." The cafe erupted into chaos, chairs scraping against the floor, the air packed with panic as I stumbled back, torn between the murmur of fear in my heart and the fierce loyalty I felt surging forward. I had only just opened my mouth to protest when, from the depths of chaos, my eyes fell upon something stark, an envelope, slipping from Julian's pocket onto the floor. Its contents hinted at secrets unshared, a future obscured by shadows. In a heartbeat, I saw him freeze at the sight of it. "No!" he shouted, but it was too late. A stranger snatched it up, eyes gleaming with malicious intent. A sinking sensation filled my stomach as the stranger turned, revealing what was in the envelope: a document, a name and, just as importantly, a date that looked eerily familiar. My breath caught. "Is this what I think it is?" I gasped. Julian's expression twisted sharply, and I knew in that moment that whatever secrets lay within that envelope had the power to change everything we thought we knew and bring forth a truth far more devastating than the shadows we were already facing. With the past and the future closing in on us, I could hardly breathe as panic flooded my thoughts. The storm was far from over, and I had just discovered that love's most profound tests are often born from within. The screams of chaos swirled around me, a cacophony fueling the disorientation settling in my bones. The stranger held the envelope aloft, triumphant, as if it were a trophy from a hunt I hadn't known we were in. The document inside was more than just paper. It felt like the shattering of our world, each word etched with secrets that could unravel everything I thought I understood about Julian. "Who's this?" the stranger taunted, his voice carrying over the din. "Your little secret, Julian. You didn't think we'd find out, did you?" Julian's eyes darkened as he advanced, desperation igniting the fire within. "Give it back. You don't understand what you're tampering with," he shouted, but the stranger merely smirked, tauntingly dragging a finger across the name inscribed on the page. I could feel the tension within Julian, a coiled spring of anger laced with fear. He was teetering on the edge of something far more dangerous than the imminent threat the strangers posed. My thoughts raced in tandem with my heart, each thump a reminder that whatever was about to unfold could change everything. "Don't involve her," Julian pleaded, his voice strained with emotion, a desperate warning layered in urgency. "This is between us." Before I could contemplate the enormity of his words, the elderly man from the cafe stepped forward, his frail body trembling, and spoke with an authority usually reserved for the strongest of warriors. "This young man has chosen love, and if you think you can shake him with fear, you have underestimated what binds him to her. You're making a mistake." The atmosphere thickened, and it seemed time itself held its breath. The stranger waved off the old man's words, clearly rattled by the sheer determination surrounding us. "Love? This isn't about love, it's about control and power." The air crackled, and I could see Julian's resolve hardening like molten steel. "That power is nothing without the people you care about," he countered, taking a step toward the stranger, every fiber of his being trembling with suppressed rage. As he spoke, it felt as if he were simultaneously fighting against his own past and facing down our unknown future. I felt the bonds of time and space waver, and my body rooted itself to the ground as I held on to the insight that love had illuminated. Julian wanted to shield me, but I knew I could not allow him to bear this alone. "I am not afraid of the truth," I said, pushing through the chaos that threatened to consume us. "Whatever this is, I will face it with you. Together." A charged silence followed my declaration, eyes shifting between me, Julian, and the stranger holding the document. I could see Julian falter, uncertainty flashing through his eyes as the gravity of my words settled upon him. "That's exactly how they get to you," the confused stranger growled, a flicker of doubt breaking across his face. "Love won't shield you from what is coming." But just as I thought our resolve might force a shift in the confrontation, a sharp gasp fell from the crowd as the envelope tore open in the stranger's grip, scattering its contents onto the floor. Papers fluttered downwards like confetti, revealing their hidden truths, snippets of words, phrases, names echoing in my mind long after they landed. Then my gaze landed on one particular paper caught beneath the edge of a table, an address, faintly familiar. Wait, I breathed, desperation clawing at my chest as I leaned closer to see. That's my grandmother's old house. A ripple of realization coursed through me, intertwining with memories I had buried deep and thoughts I hadn't dared to confront. It was the same home where whispers of family legend had spoken of lost love, a canvas of stories sewn together by heartbreak. Julian, I gasped, turning to him, my voice trembling as it twisted its way through the chaos. Why is my grandmother's name here? His expression morphed, vulnerability crackling beneath the fierce armor he wore. It's complicated, he breathed, his eyes wide with deep-set fear. You think this ties back to your past? I asked, grappling with the emotional weight of unraveling mysteries that span generations. The cafe felt suffocating, and yet, there was some small glimmer of brightness amidst the shadows, connections that bridged time and space. Julian stepped closer, urgency replacing the fear in his eyes. They want her, whoever she is to you, and I don't know why. Instinct pulled at me, and I closed the distance, needing to be anchored to him in the turmoil. We need to find out. Together, I said again, desperate to reassure him, though uncertainty gnawed at the edges of my conviction. As the stranger laughed mockingly, brandishing the scattered documents, I could sense the storm brewing within Julian, a tempest that might tear us apart or bind us together. It was a fragile moment, one that sparked an inner conflict threatening to erupt, and before I could grasp the full weight of the changes ahead, I felt the world shift, and then came the sound of sirens in the distance, promising a reckoning. Stay close. Julian barked, grabbing my wrist and pulling me into action. The chaos transformed into movement, and as we rushed towards the entrance, I cast one last glance behind us. Somehow, even as everything tumbled into uncertainty, I realized we were on the cusp of uncovering something far darker than I had imagined. Each heartbeat raced forward toward an impending truth, one I feared might divide us even further, but inside me, beneath the layers of anxiety and determination, a flicker of hope sparked. Life had a way of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary, and as we dashed into the night, I understood whatever lay ahead would challenge everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and the binding threads of fate. The cacophony of sirens grew louder, echoing the turmoil within me. With Julian's grip tight around my wrist, we burst out of the cafe, the cool night air hitting us like a wave, forcing us to breathe deeply, even as our hearts raced in chaotic sync. Glancing back, I caught a glimpse of the stranger, remnants of the scattered papers swirling around him like fallen leaves, but I forced myself to focus ahead. Where do we go? I gasped, scanning the dimly lit street for signs of safety. Anywhere we want to be found, Julian replied, his voice taut as he tugged me toward an alleyway beside the cafe, shadows looming over us like ominous whispers. They'll be looking for us now. His urgency electrified the air, but we were both gripped with the nagging weight of the unknown. Once we reached the mouth of the alley, Julian paused, leaning against the rough brick wall, his chest heaving. I stood in front of him, watching as fear and determination warred in his eyes. I'm sorry for dragging you into this, he murmured, some of the steel in his resolve dissipating. You didn't ask for any of this. I felt my heart crack at his vulnerability. Neither did you. But this is happening, Julian. Whatever this is about, we'll face it together. The words emerged as both a promise and a plea, but doubts began to etch their way into my mind. Did I really know what I was committing to? He brushed a hand through his windswept hair, a gesture that spoke of frustration and helplessness. I wish I could explain why you're tangled up in this, but there are things I've kept hidden for so long. I don't want to put you in danger. I could see shadows stretching even in the darkness, secret histories that loomed over our present, a past intertwined with mine in ways that scared me to my core. If you don't trust me enough to share them, then how could we possibly fight against whatever's coming? We need each other, Julian. His gaze steadied on mine, and for a fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of the boy I'd fallen for beneath his layer of fear. Then, as if struck by something invisible, his expression shifted into an unreadable mask. Okay, he said, bracing himself against the wall. There's something you need to know. Before he could continue, the harsh wail of sirens overwhelmed the quiet street once more. We exchanged worried glances. They must be looking for us. We can't stay here, I urged, with a sudden look of determination. He pushed off the wall, glancing down the alley toward a narrow street leading away from the noise. Follow me. As we moved deeper into the night, the shadows cast around us grew darker, but amidst the rising tension, something shifted, an unfurling tension that felt almost palpable, connecting me to Julian in ways I couldn't completely comprehend. Each step we took towards the unknown validated my instincts that this bond was more profound than I had realized. We weaved through backstreets, the buildings closing in around us as the world outside faded into a distant memory. We reached a small park, the moon casting silvery beams through the sparse trees. Here, we finally paused again, both of us trying to catch our breath. What I didn't want to tell you. Julian started, but his voice faded, and his eyes flicked toward the shadows beyond the park as if sensing something I couldn't. What is it? I urged, feeling a mixture of anxiety and anticipation, barely holding on to the fragile sliver of hope that still remained within me. I'm not who you think I am, he confessed, his voice heavy with unspoken burden. My family, they're involved in things that go far deeper than I ever planned. There are people who believe I have something they want, and they stop at nothing to get it. Julian, I whispered, my heart racing as metaphors of control and power recirculated like a blaring alarm. The implications of his words sunk in deeply, resonating with the pieces of the puzzle that had begun to form. What do they want? He hesitated, contemplating whether he should share what lurked behind his guarded exterior. Every second felt like an eternity of dread, waiting for truth to slip out like a whispered promise or a haunting curse. Suddenly, my phone buzzed, a jarring disruption after so much intensity, and I fumbled to pull it out of my pocket. My breath caught as I saw an unknown number flashing on the screen. I don't recognize the number, I said, but Julian's eyes widened in alarm. It could be dangerous. But before I could put it down, my thumb pressed accept, and the voice on the other end echoed through the darkness, grabbing hold of my heart with icy fingers. You don't know me, but we need to talk. I have information about your grandmother. It's about time you learned the truth. Time stood still as my grip tightened around the phone, reality crashing into me with terrifying potency. The evening's events had led to this moment, and I felt as though a curtain I didn't know existed had been drawn back, exposing the raw foundation of my life. Who is this? I managed to stammer, but the line went dead, silence enveloping me like the weight of centuries. Who was that? Julian pressed, his face a mixture of concern and fear. I don't know. But I need to find out, I whispered as dread rushed through my veins. This chaos was only escalating, and the question loomed larger. Would I uncover secrets that could shatter us both? In that stark moment, I realized the depths we could plunge into, the heart-wrenching truths that might yet bind us together or tear us apart. It felt like standing on the precipice of a cliff, watching the storm churn below, bracing for whatever dark revelations awaited. As we stood there, breaths shared in the trembling air that surrounded us, I knew one thing for certain: the path ahead was dangerous, and yet, with every fiber of my being, I felt we had only begun to unravel the threads of our fate. What awaited us was a confrontation with truths beyond anything we imagined, an emotional cliffhanger where love and loyalty hung in the balance. The air thickened around us, charged with the shadows of unanswered questions and encroaching dread. Julian's face remained tense, his brows knit with a mix of fear and determination. The revelation still hung between us, heavy and suffocating. Your grandmother? What does that have to do with this? Julian's voice broke my trance, and my heart raced at the realization that this call might be a key to understanding everything if only we could find it. I don't know, Julian. I shook my head, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. But something tells me it's connected to you. To whatever danger you're facing. His jaw clenched tightly, and I watched the internal conflict play out on his face. My family, they've always had secrets. Things that are buried deep, hidden from the world. But if someone knows about your grandmother, then they may know something about me too. The thought sent a chill down my spine. I wanted to reach out and comfort him, to assure him that we could navigate this together, that the past didn't have to define our future. But the shadows surrounding us were relentless, whispering an ominous warning. Before I could gather my thoughts, Julian turned back toward the street, urgency igniting in his eyes. "We have to get somewhere safe, somewhere we can talk. There's a place I know, near the old docks." The mention of the docks was unsettling. It felt like a remnant of a life I hadn't quite lived. Yet, there was no room for hesitation. I nodded, willing myself to trust him despite the harsh tide pulling at the edges of our reality. As we slipped back into the night, the weight of our situation pressed heavily on my shoulders. The distant sound of sirens faded, replaced by the rhythmic lapping of water against the docks, a haunting melody that mirrored the turmoil inside me. Arriving at the secluded area, the moon illuminated the cracked pavement and rusted metal, remnants of something long forgotten. A few street lamps flickered helplessly, casting elongated shadows that danced around us. We felt like ghosts, lurking in the remnants of a world that was both ours and not ours. "Right here," Julian said, gesturing toward a dilapidated structure that leaned precariously on the edge of the docks. "It used to be a storage facility. Nobody ever comes here. We can talk." As we stepped inside, a shiver of unease ghosted through me. The air was heavy with the scent of salt and decay, amplifying the worries twirling in my mind. I glanced at Julian, his expression still unreadable. "What do you want to tell me?" My voice was steady, though my heart thudded loudly in my ears. "I don't know where to start." He raked a hand through his hair, frustration mingling with defeat. "Everything has led to this moment, and I need you to understand just how deep this goes. My family isn't just wealthy, they're involved in things, unethical dealings with corrupt businesses, organized crime." Each word carved deeper into my chest. "What? Julian, your family? Are you serious?" "I was just a kid when I started realizing it," he admitted, his voice cracking slightly under the strain. "I tried to distance myself from it, but it's hard to escape bloodlines and family obligations. That's why I've been so terrified to be discovered as a traitor, to lose everything, to lose you." The confession left me reeling, the fragments of who I thought Julian was shattering before my eyes. Yet, amidst the pain, a spark flickered deep within me. "But you're not like them. You fought against this. You've chosen a different path. I thought I could keep you safe. I thought if I separated myself, you wouldn't have to feel the weight of it all." I interjected, my voice rising as the frustrations poured out. "But hiding from the truth doesn't keep me safer, Julian. It only prolongs the inevitable." Just then, a sound echoed from deep within the shadows of the facility, an unmistakable footfall, gravel crunching under the weight of an approaching figure. Panic gripped me as I turned to Julian, whose eyes widened in realization. "We're not alone." The tension filled every corner of the room, and I felt an icy dread creeping up my spine. I raised a cautious hand, signaling for silence. Soon a silhouette emerged, framed by the dim light filtering through the broken windows, a woman, drenched in the kind of sorrow that seeped into her bones. The moment she stepped into the light, recognition hit me like a bolt of lightning. It was Clara, my grandmother. But this wasn't the soft-faced woman I remembered. This was someone weighed down by the universe. The revelation shuddered through me, unfathomable and impossible. Her gaze landed on Julian, then back to me, her eyes wide with shock and perhaps fear. "Get away from him," she commanded, but there was something deeper trembling in her voice, a mixture of urgency and desperation. "Clara?" I breathed, stepping closer. "What are you doing here? What have you done?" she accused, her gaze darting between us like a pendulum swinging between mistrust and protection. Jaw clenched, Julian stood beside me, a fortress. "I need her to know the truth, and so do you." I felt the words curling around us, like a noose tightening, as the room swirled with uncertainty. The very foundation beneath us trembled, threatening to crumble under the weight of everything: love, fear, heartache, and truth clashing in a painful crescendo. And just like that, the night leaped toward a dark, uncharted territory where every revelation had the power to reshape not just my past, but the very future we were daring to grasp. The air around me thickened, rife with suspense as Clara's presence transformed the ghostly facade of the storage facility into something tangible and terrifying. Her voice reverberated through the deteriorating walls, a mixture of protectiveness and fear for me that was palpable. It sent a chill racing down my spine, mingling with my tumultuous emotions for Julian, whom I desperately wanted to believe in, despite Clara's fierce opposition. "Grandma," I implored, desperately seeking a thread of understanding in her gaze. "I need to know what is going on. Why are you here? What do you know about this?" She stepped further into the room, her expression a tempest of emotions. "You have to leave him, Ava. He's caught up in something darker than you can imagine." "No." Julian's voice rang out loud, slicing through the suffocating tension. "You don't understand, Clara. I'm trying to break away. I don't want this life. I can't put her in danger." "Danger?" Clara echoed bitterly, her eyes narrowing as they flared with the weight of unspoken truths. "You think running will keep her safe? Your family has eyes everywhere. You don't even know who you're dealing with." I glanced at Julian, who was visibly shaken but resolute. "That's why I've been hiding things from you, Ava. I thought if I could keep you away from everything I've inherited, it wouldn't touch you." But now his voice trailed off, the fear of losing me cutting deep. "Now it's too late," Clara whispered, her shoulders trembling against the weight of sorrow and foreboding. "You don't know what they're capable of. The web they've spun is twisted and unbreakable. They will come for her if they sense any weakness." The room seemed to grow smaller, walls closing in as dread seeped into every crack and crevice. I could feel it clawing at my throat, suffocating my spirit. "Clara," I said slowly, seeking clarity to anchor my spiraling thoughts. "You said you'd always protect me. You have to help us. There must be something we can do." She glanced at Julian, uncertainty shadowing her features. "The truth is all we have, but it might be the very thing that tears you apart." Her voice wavered, like a thin line drawn in the sand, waiting for a potentially devastating choice. Julian stepped closer to me, as if trying to create an impenetrable barrier against whatever phantom threats lurked in the dark. "We can face it together," he said, determination surging through his words. "You have to trust me, Ava. Trust that I would never let anything happen to you intentionally." Just then, the silence erupted with the noise of a distant commotion, voices growing louder, punctuated by the harsh glow of headlights cutting through the dark. A surge of panic coursed through the room. "We have to go," Clara urged urgently, her earlier resolve shifting into something more visceral. "They're coming." Julian's gaze darted toward the exit, and my heart raced. "Where?" I turned to Clara for guidance. "Where do we go?" "Anywhere but here," she hissed, her fear palpable and reverberating off cracked walls. She seized my arm, a sudden fierceness in her grip as she began to pull me toward the door. "We can't waste time." But I glanced back at Julian, his expression mirroring mine, caught between staying and running. Between joy and heartache. "No. Stay with me." His voice broke as he reached for me, desperate. "I can fight this, I can make it right. Don't leave me here, Ava." Clara looked torn, her eyes softening momentarily at the anguish in Julian's plea. "You can't save him," she whispered urgently. "They will destroy you both." A heavy silence descended as I stood there, trapped between competing loyalties, my heart pulling me towards Julian while my mind screamed to heed Clara's warning. A tear slipped down my cheek, a testament to the confusion and pain battling within. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the outer edges of the building, the bright lights illuminating the space in terrifying clarity. "They're inside," Clara gasped, pushing me away from the door. "Now, Ava." I took a deep, unsteady breath. Every heartbeat felt like an eternity. Waiting for the moment to choose, Julian or the chance to escape a fate that seemed ominous and inescapable. Before I could make my decision, another noise echoed closer, a voice I recognized cutting through the chaos. "Ava." It was Sam, my childhood friend, his frantic form rushing toward the entrance, wild-eyed and breathless. You have to come. Now. And in that instant, the crushing weight of everything coalesced into a singular choice, a moment that would ripple through our lives forever, but uncertainty clung to me like a shroud. The storm was brewing outside, and I felt utterly trapped, in a maze of revelation, fear, and uncharted love. With every breath, the clouds hung heavy with the storm of truths untold, and the impending confrontation was about to shatter everything once more. The moment stretched, elastic under the weight of time, as I grappled with the clamor of conflicting emotions. Sam's eyes were wide with urgency, a lifeline thrown into the turbulent waters swelling inside me. Julian was still, his own desperation painting the air thick with unspoken words, while Clara's fear-stricken face echoed the warning of countless times I had turned a blind eye to danger. Ava, we don't have much time. Sam urged again, drawing my attention back to him. His voice anchored me, offering a bittersweet glimmer of hope in the rising tide of chaos. Please. They're looking for you, and if they catch you here in that second, the clock ticked louder than my heart, the history between Sam and me flashing before my eyes, a childhood of laughter, shared secrets, and moments that had built a fortress of trust. I looked to Julian, who stood there, vulnerability spilling from every pore. His infallible confidence faltering only heightened my anxiety. Ava, don't do this, he pleaded. I can protect you. I will fight for you. We can run together. His words were thick with pain, and every syllable felt like a tether binding us in this moment, yet the uncertainty of what lay beyond filled me with dread that I could feel Clara's presence hovering, a reminder of the familial love that sheltered me amidst all darkness, yet here was Sam, carrying the weight of my past and a promise that nestled deep within my heart. With each beat of the chaotic world around us, voices clamoring, shadows growing, the choice felt almost supernatural, forcing me to contend with who I was becoming versus who I once was. Clara, can you protect him? I found myself asking, the thought of running without Julian a jagged fragment lodged in my throat. If I go with Sam, can you keep him safe? Her expression shifted, anguish mingled with resolve. If you leave, it will only delay the inevitable. They have eyes, Ava. They'll know where he is, where you both are. Don't you understand? I want to let you sacrifice yourself for me. Julian's voice crescendoed, raw and agonizingly honest. I can't. But before he could finish, another loud crash rattled the structure, breaking open the faint semblance of calm that had settled around us like a shroud. The building trembled, the world outside drumming closer. Now, Ava. Come on. Sam insisted, his hand reaching out to pull me into the tumult, the gravity of that indistinct choice weaving downward into my gut. I felt the bond one shared with him, the childhood innocence, fundamental and foundational, but it was Julian's anguish, his fight, that struck me right where it hurt the most. I don't know, I stammered, torn apart by the swell of emotions as Clara's steely grip tightened around me, strengthening the magnetic pull of family loyalty. I felt her warmth against my hand, offering the comfort of unconditional love. But the fire burning in Julian's eyes echoed with whispered promises of the future we could still carve together. Forget it. Clara shouted over the roar, fear pouring into her words. This isn't just about you two. If they find you, they will take everything from you, both of you. My gaze darted back and forth, caught in a tempest I hadn't anticipated. It felt surreal, ludicrous, to think I could simply choose one person over another when the consequences spun into complexity that spiraled into unforgiving darkness. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder, firm yet warm. It was Julian, and in that split second, I realized I didn't want to let go. Not of him, not of the infinitesimal flickering spark ignited within me by his resolve. You have to choose, Ava. His voice coaxed me, soft yet urgent. You have to decide which heart needs yours more. But before I could anchor my intentions and pulse my heartbeat into a coherent choice, a pair of heavy footsteps echoed through the entrance, grating and unyielding, charging our space with a form of dread that made my skin crawl. Go. Now. Clara commanded, pushing us toward the back exit, her urgency cutting through the static of our spiraling thoughts. Sam surged forward, his hand gripping mine, igniting memories of laughter in the schoolyard, but Julian, caught in the grip of turmoil, remained anchored at my side. Don't you dare, Ava. I won't let you walk away. The fury in his eyes blended with fear, blending beautifully with every hope he had ever nurtured for us. The world shifted, hearts splintered, and bonds frazzled, and I found myself spinning, split between the familiar warmth of Sam and the passionate fire of Julian as the shadows grew deeper. Just before I could take one step, a cry echoed from beyond the door, chilling my blood. Ava. The voice sliced through the air like glass, a voice I hadn't heard in ages but recognized instinctively. A figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the blinding light behind them, and disbelief surged through every fiber of my being. Dad? My breath caught, realization clawing at me, disbelief like a relentless cloud swelling within my chest. He had vanished, disappeared into nothing over a decade ago, yet here he was alive, an enigma. And all sense of safety evaporated into the chaotic air surrounding us, tethered to a past that I never imagined would return to haunt me now. The moment hung in the air, suspended like smoke, as my father's silhouette flickered with both warmth and uncertainty. I took a step closer, driven by an instinct I barely understood. Dad? My voice trembled on the precipice of hope and sorrow, the weight of an absence that had long defined my childhood crashing against the facade I had built. His face bore the harsh lines of years gone by, etched with shadows that told tales of anguish and survival. Ava, he breathed, almost in disbelief. You need to come with me. It's not safe here. Behind me, time warped. I felt Sam's grip loosen, his face blanching at the sight of a man who should have remained a ghost. Julian's eyes flared with anger and heartbreak, Clara's breath hitched, her bitter memories clawing back into focus. A pit opened inside me, a swirling contradiction of longing and resentment. Where have you been? The accusation slipped out, raw and unwieldy, a question steeped in abandonment and loyalty torn apart. I couldn't reconcile the father whose absence had haunted my life with the man standing before me. Ava, I can explain everything. I promise. His tone was steady, but the tremor in his hands betrayed him. But we need to leave now before they find you. They're back, and it's more dangerous than you know. Who is they? I insisted, each word heavier than the last as this convoluted reunion pulled me deeper into a storm I had tried to escape. My heart raced, my thoughts flitting between the threads of two lives, the one where he had been absent, and the one where he suddenly materialized, burdened with secrets. They look for me, for you. His eyes darted back toward the exit, his urgency palpable. Please, Ava. This place isn't safe. You have to trust me. But the storm inside me only intensified. I glanced at Sam, heartache threading through my chest as I saw the shattered trust reflecting in his gaze. Julian took a step back, his disappointment a hard weight nestled between us like a barrier. Is he really worth your trust, Ava? Julian, I started, desperate to dispel the doubt, but my father's presence loomed heavy, like a dark cloud over our fragile moment. I know this is hard, Dad said, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. You have every right to be angry, but I can't explain everything here. Just come with me. I'll keep you safe. But what about us? I looked at Julian, who stood resolute yet crushed, and then to Clara, holding the remnants of our shared past in her eyes. What about the people who love me? I love you, my father interjected softly, his voice reminiscent of a lullaby I had long forgotten. I'm here now, that's what matters. We'll figure the rest out later. The walls of the room trembled again, the echo of danger creeping closer. A pang of instinct urged me to cling to what was familiar, Julian's fierce loyalty and Sam's steadfast support, but it was entwined with a magnetic pull toward the unknown that my father represented. Go with him, Ava. Clara cried out, her voice a plea infused with desperation. If he can keep you safe, then you must go. I was torn, caught between worlds, memories clashing with present realities under the weight of love and fear. Each option felt like an unknown galaxy reaching out to swallow me whole. The stairs behind us were dark, daunting, echoing with the whispers of everything left unspoken. My heart raced, Sam's hand clutched my arm, grounding me. Ava, please. Don't make a choice based on fear. Think about what you want. His voice wavered, resonating with a concern that felt like belonging against the backdrop of chaos. But the seismic shift rattling through my chest was insatiable. I faced my father again, tears prickling the corners of my eyes as truths simmered in the atmosphere between us, heavy and unrelenting. You don't get to show up and expect me to just follow you. I need to know why now, why everything? He hesitated, wrestling with his own emotions before his words broke free. I wasn't strong enough to keep you safe from them. I thought it would be better this way. His admission was a blade slicing through. Years of silence, laying bare the vulnerability of a man whose decisions had repercussions beyond measure. I need time to think. I blurted out, desperation leaping between us. But before I could draw a breath, thunder cracked outside, merging with the doorway explosion that burst forth. A figure stormed in, silhouetted by the fading daylight, a body clad in dark attire, purpose-threatening and laser-focused. The air grew taut with sudden astringent fear, blurring my thoughts. Your time is up, Ava. The voice, smooth like ice yet teasing hidden flames, sent dread cascading through me. My father stepped between me and the looming threat, the fierce protector I never anticipated. Get away from my daughter. He shouted, his voice valiant and radiant, yet fraught with urgency and peril. In that surreal moment, I was forced to confront the fissures that bound my heart. I was on the precipice of impossible choices, the darkly woven threads of destiny entwining around me as the old life collided with the new, each string pulsing with the weight of promises unfulfilled, love uncharted, and a father's hidden truths engulfed by the encroaching darkness. And just as the room erupted into mayhem, I stood frozen, caught in a universe of impossible decisions, aching for the clarity I desperately needed, yet shrouded beneath an overwhelming uncertainty I never saw coming. The chaos erupted around us, swirling faster than the shadows could dissipate. My heart raced in sync with the pounding of footsteps echoing through the storage facility, vibrations tightening around my chest. My father stood resolute before me, a barrier between safety and the unknown, between the terrifying world he represented and the life I had built with Julian and Sam. Leave her out of this. My father demanded, voice steady as the figure who had intruded upon our moment hovered just inside the doorframe. A stalker cloaked in menace, the newcomer surveyed us with an icy gaze that felt as oppressive as the dark night outside. Such bravery, David, the stranger replied, a sinister grin breaking across their face as they stepped further into the dim light. But think of the girl, caught in a web she doesn't even understand. What do you want? I shouted, the words clawing their way to the surface. Who are you? Just someone trying to collect on old debts, the figure replied smoothly, their voice smooth as silk, but dripping with threats. And you, Ava, are at the heart of it all. I felt my stomach drop. The weight of their words washed over me, a cold wave of dread. You have no right. Oh, but I do, they shot back. Involving your father, in this matters so much to your family's legacy, Ava. And you will either comply or face the consequences. The clarity of their twisted logic sent icy fingers up my spine, and I could see Julian tightening beside me, ready to defend what was his, what was ours. My heart raced as it battled with apprehension. I could feel the impending collision of worlds pressing in on us, the fabric of everything that was important fraying. No, I whispered, unsure which truth to lean towards. The bustling market of love had suddenly transformed into a battlefield, with every choice bringing the sharp knife of uncertainty closer to my heart. Go, Ava. Sam shouted, urgency blending with fear. Get out of here. We can lead them away. Not without you. I clung to him, desperate as the chaos encroached. I couldn't leave, I wouldn't. I still saw it glimmering there, the bond of love with Julian, the fierce loyalty with Sam, and the haunting shadow of my father who had returned. Each thread wove a different story, yet all anchored me to a very particular fate I hadn't chosen, and suddenly, clarity burst within me, a kaleidoscope of decisions colliding into focus. You won't take me from them, I declared, defiantly drawing power from the visceral love swelling in my chest. The intruder's grin faltered for just a moment before they regained their composure. You have no idea what you're standing against, they hissed. Your father has been in deep, and you threaten to unravel it all. Then let me. My words hit the air, solidifying my resolve. If it means freeing Julian from your reach, I will fight for them. Around me, silence followed, a palpable connection binding us all. I could see the flicker of hope in Julian's eyes, though fear played heavily across Sam's face. My father looked almost proud, a fierce appreciation emanating silently. But the intruder's cold laughter shattered the intensity as they stepped forward, purpose radiating from every movement. Foolish girl, they taunted, an unsettling glint in their eyes. You think you can fight fate? Watch me. I hissed, adrenaline surging as I glanced around, searching for options, for a way out. Time snapped and rushed along, every second urging me onward. If truth could break barriers, if love could shatter them, then I'd channel every ounce of courage I possessed. Just as the figure lunged toward us, a plan crystallized in my mind. I saw Julian leap into action, firing forward with tenacity as a protector. Ava, run! He shouted, fierce determination punctuating every word. I tore my gaze from him, feeling the past collide with the present, choices flashing like lights before my eyes. In a bold rush, I sprung back into the storage facility, turning to face the intruder head-on. I needed to buy time. Enough! I shouted, my voice cutting through the panic. What do you want from me? But before they could respond, the roar of sirens erupted just outside, pulsating like a heartbeat of salvation from the chaos. Shadows of police lights began to flicker through the windows, sending a wave of fear through the intruder's veins. Leave! The figure snarled, frustration bleeding through their control. This isn't over, Ava. With a sudden movement, they turned on their heel, slipping back into the shadows, leaving behind a tense stillness. My heart thundered, the world around me fading back into focus as confusion settled. Are you okay? Julian rushed to me, panic written all over his features, worry eclipsing the chaos surrounding us. His hands cupped my face, tracing the outlines with an urgency that felt electrifying, grounding. I am now, I breathed softly, a weight lifting off my shoulders. That was reckless, he said, concern feathering his voice, but the admiration glittered beneath. Maybe, but we have to get out of here together, I urged, engaging the pulse of confidence coursing through my veins. That's when I turned to my father, the ghost of family history echoing in the back of my mind. Dad, can you explain? You have to tell me everything, I implored, my voice tinged with lingering fear and desire for understanding. In an instant, our eyes met, and the room seemed to swell, expanding with the enormity of what had unfolded. His presence was no longer just a remnant of the past but an undeniable link to the very future I craved. I did this to protect you, Ava, he finally said, his voice quaking with a sincerity I had longed to hear. There are things you don't understand: the legacy, the threats, the ties that bind us all. We exchanged a look, souls colliding in a brief embrace of shared wounds that had festered for too long. But I need to understand. If they're dangerous, I have to know how I can fight them. If we stand together, he replied softly, the weight of years glimmering in his eyes, you'll learn the truth. You belong to a lineage that holds more power than any of us realized. And suddenly, everything shifted, a kaleidoscope of possibilities swirling before me. My heart thudded in the space between us as warmth enveloped me. Whatever lay ahead, we would face it as a family. Then let us begin, I proclaimed, determination rising like the dawn on the horizon. With Julian beside me and Sam's unwavering presence anchoring us, I knew we would forge ahead into the unknown, unraveling secrets as we unraveled ourselves. Nothing would keep us bound beneath the darkness any longer. As I looked around once more, my heart filled with a sense of unity I had never known was possible, the rawness of our connections igniting hope like stars flaring to life. In that chilling night, amidst a storm of revelations and shadows, we would rise together, shining bright against the backdrop of our entwined fates. Together, I affirmed, my voice ringing true. Through anything. And as the sirens drew closer, I knew without a doubt that this was only the beginning, a transformative journey deeply instilled with the bonds of love, entangled with healing histories, and the endless fight within each of us that would lead us to a future we could all carve out together, regardless of the shadows. In that moment, I felt the weight of the past dissolve like fog at dawn and a fierce new strength shift through me. Destiny was ours to write, and I would pen every chapter unflinchingly, and together, we would never fold.